Welcome to the Del Walmsley Radio Show. Listen and grow as Del questions the status quo, encourages you to think differently, and empowers you to make a better life. Get ready as Del challenges core beliefs, seeks the truth, and reveals the roadmap to the lifestyle you really want. And now your host, multi-millionaire, national award-winning investor, CEO and founder of Lifestyles Unlimited, Del Walmsley.
Welcome to the Del Walmsley Radio Show, where the hype ends and the help begins. I'm your host, Del Walmsley, and as always, we're working on your financial freedom. Today is Tell Del Tuesday, and with me here today is Jeff Olson out of Washington, the state. And Jeff is an interesting situation in someone who has decided that he wanted to go and get out of corporate America and just do the kinds of things that he enjoys doing, including working part-time to working full-time. So, Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Del. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Why don't we start way back at the beginning and talk about yourself when you were younger, and were you an entrepreneur spirit when you were young, or, what happened? Because I see you had done some real estate way back when I started in '87. So why don't you share with us how you got started being an entrepreneur?
Sure. I was, like you said, young. I was in my early 20s, and I was in a job with a major drugstore chain. And it turned out I thought it was my dream job. I was traveling the West Coast, setting up new stores, had an expense account, flying on a corporate jet. I thought, this is the life. And that position kind of came to an end, and I needed a place to live. I'd been living at home at the time, didn't need an apartment or anything. So I had my stepfather had some real estate friends that he hooked me up with. And they said, you know what you need? You need a rental home. And they suggested a duplex. You could live on one side, rent out the other side, and I'm in. I had all this money to spend, and so I'm 24. I buy a duplex and become a landlord. And whoa, I can't believe this is happening. And back then, it was scary. There was no internet. There was no resources really that we have now that you could go online and figure out how to be a landlord. It was go to the library, ask your real estate friends. Things took time. I used to go to, they had an office supply store that had legal documents that you could buy. My first lease that I got for the rental, I paid $2.99 and had a hard copy that I took to the new tenants and had them fill it out. It was pretty funny looking back at it.
Yeah, it's funny. I forgot all about all that stuff. That's when I started back in '87. And you're right. There really wasn't any information, really, that was available. I mean, there was the Midnight Madness guys. They're out there telling you they could teach you how to get rich by doing crazy stuff. But other than that, there really wasn't. So you bought a duplex. And you lived in one side and you rented out the other. Do you have good results with that or bad results?
I still have it, actually, and it's cash flowing like you wouldn't believe. But I kept it. I moved out, built a home, and so I've had it rented full-time since then. And actually, a couple years after holding it, the same guys said, hey, we should leverage this and get you into something bigger. So actually put an offer on a 12-unit complex when I was 26 years old, which we didn't end up getting, but had gone down that path. And unfortunately, my life, my work, I enjoyed so much. The real estate was a sideline, and I had a nice career that I thoroughly enjoyed, and didn't realize until much later in life that, you know what, if I had gone forward with that, and you and I could have been neighbors.
Probably. So let's talk a little bit about this, just to clean this part of the story up. What did you buy that for, purchase price-wise, and what's it worth today?
I paid $72,500 for that, and at the time they said that was insane. That was a high price, and the interest rates were 12%. It's like 11.5%, 12%.
Yeah.
And but that was what it was at the time, and nobody really knew a whole lot different. I didn't know any different as a first-time purchaser, but I held on to it, and today it's worth probably around $500,000.
Wow. Kind of beats the 401k plan, huh?
It does. It does. And we actually ended up a few years ago purchasing another single family and held it for 8 years, and it appreciated very, very well.
If we take this to the simplest level, Jeff, I mean, this is, you can go anywhere with this story, but if you just want to take this at the simplest level, you think about this, who knows how much rent you've collected over, let's see, 87, 97, 2007, 2017, 2022. That's 35 years now, right? 35
Exactly.
years of collecting rent.
Yep.
I mean, my gosh. I mean, I can't even imagine how much rent that is. Let's say, I'm going to make up a number and say a couple $100 a month positive cash flow. Just making a number up, and that's probably low, but we'll just, especially since it's grown, I'm sure, 200 times 12 times 35 years. What do you get for rent now? That gives us a better idea.
Where it's netting about $3,000 a month.
Yeah, so I mean that's got to be hundreds of thousands of dollars there, and then you look at the value, and reality is, even though you paid $72,000, by the way, that is high for back then, but the fact that you didn't put $72,000 down, how much did you have to put down? About 10%.
It was 10%, exactly.
Yeah,
and I've taken money out of it as well for other single-family purchases.
There you go. So you work your way through all of this and decide to become an IT guy. Is that where you moved to as far as employment?
I was an IT guy for the drugstore chain, and then I moved over to a major healthcare provider, one of the largest in the nation, and spent about 10 years there. Left there, moved into a garden center. Using my management skills and people skills, I managed a multi-location garden center for about 10 years and just got burnt out finally and ended up leaving. Thought, what am I going to do now? And my good friend, who you know, Mike Johnson, had been beating me up for several years because he had moved to Texas and said, hey, I'm doing some single-family things. And one day he called me and said, I'm buying a apartment complex. I thought, you're what? And so I started to take notice of what he was doing, and when I left my job in 2019, I thought, I need to get serious about this. And started talking to him some more. He had pointed out some things that I could be doing, and it was kind of the puzzle pieces that I'd been missing had all started coming together with the information he provided, and it started to make sense.
So before we go to break here, I just wanted to get in front of everybody for those people, because people tend to listen to the radio in segments. Let's talk about how many total deals you're in now, because I've got a list here, but how many deals have you done? How many total units? I see the total units is almost 2,000 units, 1955. How many deals is that?
I'm into 14 deals now.
14 apartment complexes?
14 apartment complexes. First one was closed in August of 2020.
Okay. 2020. Oh, you didn't start till 2020 on that.
No. I've shifted into fifth gear real quick, and I'm all in.
Today with me on Tell Del Tuesday is Jeff Olson out of Washington State. And Jeff is currently got around 14 apartment deals he's in, almost 2,000 units. And we're going to start discussing some of the finances behind this stuff. So, Jeff, let's talk about this. You started investing in your first deals in 2020 as apartment complex deals. How did you get involved with lifestyles? Obviously your friend referred you. What did you do to get into lifestyles? Since you were referred, did you go through the process? And what did you?
I went through kind of a modified process. I talked to some folks that were in lifestyles. My friend that had moved to Texas and a couple other people did some good research and thought, this is legitimate. This is something I really want to do. So we signed up and attended the 2-day in Seattle in January of 2020. Went through the whole process, and like I said earlier, there was pieces of the puzzle that I had, and that helped fill in those other pieces of the puzzle, a lot of them, and it opened my eyes that I'm in the right place.
So, at what age did you get married? How long have you been with your wife?
We got married, we just celebrated our 23rd wedding anniversary. I was in my early 30s. We're both in our early 30s.
All right. So you've had time to blend your belief systems, without length of time. So what did she think when you brought all this up?
She was a little unsure at the time. It was, I think, a little bit out of her box, but our CPA had been telling us that we needed to invest in some things where we could have some write-offs and some losses for income that she has a good job, that she earns a nice salary, and we needed to offset some of that. So it took a little bit of convincing to put all this money into these deals, but now that we've been in them for a while, she's all in. She's on board.
I thought she was an accounting manager.
She is. She absolutely is. And when it comes to putting some money out like I was proposing to her, she swallowed hard, but she trusted me. I said, okay, I believe it. You've done your due diligence, and let's go.
Okay, and so you decided to start putting some money in. Where did you go to bring some funds together for your first purchases?
We had some funds saved already, and as it turns out, when we started in the middle of COVID, and I was fortunately laid off from the part-time job that I had at the time, so that made me eligible to take a distribution from my 401k without a penalty. So I jumped all over that, took that money out, and deployed that into some deals, and we did a cash-out refi for our primary home, which got us into a lot of deals. And with interest rates at the time, I think we got like 2.85%. How could you say no to that?
Mm-hmm.
And we've started getting some distributions in from deals, and we did have one sale already that we got in, and I immediately redeployed that. So we just looked all over on what we had and what we could do, and started finding money that when you put it all together, it was enough to do deals.
Well, it looks like this first one you sold, I think it's called The Crossing, you had a 400% return, so that's got to add some positivity to your thought process of what you're doing, huh?
That was exciting. That was the first sale out of all of the deals that we've done, and I think I stopped the car when I read the email and got out and did a happy dance. Like, okay, this is good. This is really good. I was pretty excited, as was my wife.
So I'm going to try to ask a question here. I'm going for an explanation that I don't know if I can get, but I'm going to try. And that is, what type of a person is it yourself, Jeff, that prefers part-time gigs? And I only say that because I don't know that you don't, since that's what you've been doing. You said you left the part-time gig there when COVID hit. Don't know which one of the part-time gigs that was you left, but what is it that attracts you to the part-time gig thing?
Well, the part-time gig, just so we're all on board, is I'm a school bus driver. When I left my last full-time position, I was off for a couple months, and I kept seeing signs around that said they're in desperate need of bus drivers. You know what? And we had just signed up for Lifestyles as well, and I was going through some of the training and the coursework. And I'm going to go do that just to fill my time, and that would give me time to do my Lifestyles work as well, which worked perfectly. Besides the fact that my wife said, "You're not going to retire until I retire," which she still had 2-3 years on the horizon where she wanted to jump from her company. So there was that. But it's a nice way that I can go out and I give back to the community, the schools. I enjoy what I do. I come home in the middle of the day. I go to my computer. I see what's going on in the Lifestyles world. It's a good balance for me.
Okay. Children, you got any?
I do. I have 3 children. My youngest just got married here at our house. She's away at school, so she moved out. We're empty nesters. My middle child, Kendra, lives in Colorado with her husband and 3 kids. And my oldest is actually the Lifestyles ambassador for the Portland area.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah. My oldest daughter.
That's very interesting. So when you go through this, like you said, your wife isn't going to let you retire until she retires, and that was 2 years ago, it looks like, somewhere thereabouts. Is she planning on retiring someday, or is she just like her job too much? She
does like it, but she does want to retire, and she keeps bugging me, checking on distributions and the cash-on-cash mailbox money that comes in. Said, "Are we ready yet? Can I retire yet?" And we're getting close. We're getting very close.
All right, we're going to take a break at that point, Jeff. We'll be right back with Jeff Olson, the Del Walmsley Radio Show.
Teaching you with a roadmap to creating the lifestyle you really want. Keep listening. The Del Walmsley Radio Show returns in moments.
Successful Lifestyles Unlimited member retires in 10 months.
The hardest part for me was to drop off my son, go to a job that I absolutely hated for 5 years, but know that that was a sacrifice that I needed to make, and then only be able to get to spend 2 hours with him after school before he had to go back to bed. So that's why once we started and we joined Lifestyles, we said, okay, we have a roadmap. We know what we're gonna do. And then a month later, we find out we're pregnant with baby number 2. And we're like, okay, we gotta kick it up a notch. So that's how we were able to purchase 4 different properties and replace in 10 months, replace my income in 10 months so that whenever I finished maternity leave, I didn't have to go back to work.
I think a couple weeks before baby came out is when we closed on our 4-plex, and that was enough for her not to have to go back to work.
Are you ready for your roadmap to real estate retirement? Attend the online free workshop, just like Carolina did. Register LifestylesUnlimitedWorkshop.com.
Welcome back to the Del Walmsley Radio Show. Here with me today on Tell Del Tuesday is Jeff Olson out of Washington State. And as we went to break, I was asking Jeff about how he got indoctrinated into Lifestyles Unlimited. So, Jeff, let's go back to the 2-day. I always like to ask everybody this, even though you came in a little bit differently. I still want to hear, what was it that you heard at the 2-day that was an aha moment? Do you go, wow, that's a piece I didn't know?
I think it was combination of all the little puzzle pieces, like I said, I was missing, and the financing piece of it, how to leverage your money so you could move it forward into other properties. That was something that, we've been trained to pay off your debt for so many years, and that was, I think, the aha. I was like, that's not as good as they say it is, that, we can take that money and utilize it and deploy it and get money coming in from it.
Okay.
That was really it. And the closeness of all the people that were there and their willingness to share, it was like I had found my missing family. Going solo for so many years and not having much contact with other people who own rental properties, like, oh, there's this whole community that are just like me, that are interested in their willingness to share. It was amazing.
So you took the class where? Which location?
It was in Seattle.
Seattle. So that couldn't have been a really large class up there in your room. What do you think there were? 20, 30, 40 people? What do you think?
Oh, there was more than that. There was probably 50 at least,
okay.
I think. And some of them were already members. They were coming back and taking the class again. So they'd been through it. They had done deals and had owned properties or invested in properties across the country and in Texas. So those were great resources of information and totally validated everything else that I had been hearing, which was very refreshing.
Did that add a little comfort for your wife?
It did. She was actually excited. She said, yeah, I think we should probably do this. I said, you're darn right we should do this.
All right. So let's talk now about when you came out of there, you decided the multifamily way was what you wanted to do and be a passive?
Exactly. Having, self-managed for a number of years and coming out of a job that I had dealt with the public for so many years, I was kind of done with that. So we decided the passive route was how we wanted to go, and so we could be on track to retire and enjoy life without having to be responsible for managing some properties.
Well, it's a definite truth. If you can get to that point of retirement as a passive investor, once you get there, it's heaven. I mean, there's no doubt. That's the ultimate retirement right there, man.
I believe you.
It's probably a little slower than getting out there and doing it on your own, like you saw the massive gains you made on your own single-family house. But you still, once you get there, the result is generally much more enjoyable. So let's talk about, did you plan and scheme with your wife on what to buy, or did you just do that on your own?
I mostly did that on my own. It was opportunistic that COVID had happened. You've talked about this before, being so removed from all the activity up here geographically in Washington. There was a lot of Zoom meetings, so I was able to dial into those. I met so many people, leads, so I got to know what was going on pretty quickly. It was like I would call it the fast track compared to what I hear was previous, where it was a little more, the people are not, I was not right where all the people were, where all the activity was, so it helped me a lot, and I talked to leads and analyzed a lot of deals, and during that time, it was very easy to talk to people and get the information that I needed and pick and choose the deals that I was comfortable with. So it worked out very well.
You're right about that. COVID was a blessing in disguise for us, for Lifestyles Unlimited, because it forced us to take everything online. We used to do everything locally, live, as much as possible, touchy-feely, get to meet real people, blah, blah, blah. But all of a sudden, real people had to be on video screens because of COVID. But it made us change the format of everything, and people really did like it. So were you surprised how many different places around the country that this was going on?
I was very surprised. And since I've joined, it seems like it has grown even more. And it seems like the impetus may have been COVID and being able to get out there and expand it even more. It's very nice to see.
Now, when you decided on your properties, let's talk about this. There's so many different ways to segment your choices there. Let's see where you put your priorities. When you were looking for a deal, what were your priorities?
I kind of had several priorities. I wanted some properties, some deals that had cash flow so that we could start an income stream and begin building that. And I also wanted some that what we call the value plays, where there would be no distributions, but we would be in a position to gain from the equity that is built in the property as it's rehabbed and made a better place to live for the tenants. Then they can sell it, of course, and get a much better price on the sale. So I've got a combination of those just to be a little diversified.
And how much weight did you put on the lead investor?
I put a lot of weight on the lead investor. Coming from my background, and I'm a stickler for punctuation and spelling, and I look at that. I look at the communications, and if they're a good communicator, that is high marks in my book. People that are very detail-oriented. I've had project management in my background, so the folks that have a plan and they've laid out the plan and thought about it and schedule it, you know that they are going to be good executors of their plan. So those two things with leads work well for me.
Gotcha. What about first time as opposed to long time leads? Was there any difference in that thought process?
I like long time leads. Also, I believe that first time leads, if they have the characteristics and qualities like I mentioned before, that there may be a little more risk, but I've invested with some first time leads and done very well.
Yeah, I find the first time leads want to get it done.
They do. They don't want to let their investors down, and they want to move on and get into another bigger, better property and deal. So you're right. They have incentive.
Yeah, I found that to be true. Let's talk about geographically diversification. Did you think about that at all?
I did, because you never know what is going to happen to the laws within each state or even down to the county level. So I've got a concentration in Texas where, of course, a lot of deals were taking place, but Arizona was a very hot geography, so I have some properties there. I'm really interested in, the Carolinas, and we've got now leads in other states, Utah, and maybe even Idaho. So I want to see what's happening there.
Well, I always thought it would be a good excuse to travel.
Yeah, right.
I got properties all over the country, probably in 20 different states, and I've never gone to visit them. And I don't know. I always thought that was going to be a good excuse to go do something, but I guess not. Who wants to go visit a stupid apartment complex, right?
Well, when my wife and I retire and get our Airstream, maybe we'll do that, and we'll just make a checklist and travel from property to property.
With me here today on Tell Del Tuesday is Jeff Olson out of Washington State. And Jeff, as I was going through your portfolio here, I noticed that you were just really on a buying frenzy. 2 in August of 2020, 2 in October, 1 in November, 2 in December. Then again, the next year, 1 in January, 2 in March. I mean, how were you attacking it that quickly?
Well, we had accumulated some of the funds, and like I said, we took out a refinance on our house, and I took a distribution during COVID from my 401k, so we had the money to deploy, and I wanted to build the snowball and build a big snowball to start, because you know what they say, the snowball just keeps getting bigger. So I just wanted that big snowball to start it rolling to make everything go a little bit faster.
So looking here at your notes, one of them sold in June of 22. Looks like another one sold in September of 22. And that one had a good return also?
That one is due to, it got moved a little bit with all the interest rates moving and things happen, of course. Closing dates get moved. So that's actually going to close, I hear now, in November. And so we should about 190, maybe a little bit less than 198% return on that, with a hold of just over a couple of years.
Okay. And what about these other two you've got listed down here?
There's one in Tyler, Texas, with Ed Faulkner that we've held be 2 years coming up in November, and that's under contract to sell. And the other is the Crossing on Grands in Tucson, which we've held just about a year and a half, and that's going to have a cash-out refi event, I hear, this month. So that's some exciting news for us to have some good cash distributions coming back in that we'll be able to redeploy and get into some more deals.
So the way that's listed there, you've got Crossing at Roger, Crossing at Grand, and you've got Vibo Shaw, and then you've got Sold. So what happened there? Were those two sister properties or something?
That was a two-property portfolio, and going into that, Weibo said that the smaller of the two properties we were going to hold for 1 year and 1 day, and it was going to be sold. And true to his word, it was about 1 year and a couple months, and he sold the smaller property, and that's the one that we made 400% on.
Gotcha.
And the other property is the one that's up for the cash-out refi.
So the snowball has started.
The snowball has started. I've heard the term second-generation money, so I'm starting to redeploy some of that second-generation money back into deals, which is kind of exciting for me.
Yeah, that is. That really is. There's only one thing more exciting than the second-generation money, which is really the next step. That's step two. The third step is where you've drawn your money back off the table again, and you're playing with house money on everything. Everything is house money at that point. And then you're sitting there and you're like Curtis and myself and other people that have accumulated quite a bit of wealth, when you're sitting there going, what do I do with this money? Do I just keep buying more stuff? Do I just keep making more money? Or do I keep it? Or what do I do? Should I buy a bigger house? Should I, buy my kids a boat, a yacht? It really gets to be that strange thing when you have no more money in these deals and they just keep going and going and going. So that's your next big one to look forward to, Jeff.
Looking forward to it.
All right, let's talk about the daughter being an ambassador. That's got to make you proud, huh?
Super proud. She's a member, is into several deals, and just a dynamic person. She coordinates the local events here in the Portland area, and we have monthly meetings. And I think she's just she loves it. She enjoys it. She loves the people, and she's setting herself up for success too by networking with all of these people, investing in these deals. She's got a young daughter, our granddaughter, so it'll be setting Joanna up for success in the future as well. I'm really excited about it.
Is she going to be able to make it to my house for the great party we're having over here in October?
I don't know. I haven't asked her that. Hopefully she can.
The ambassadors have a ticket to it, so she may want to attend. All right. So now that you're where you're at, what's the plan? How do you see this thing going forward in the future over the next 5 to 10 years?
Next 5 to 10 years, we will continue investing. We'll get that second, third generation money back in so we can get to that point where we've taken our money off the table, like you said, and hopefully less than 5 years, Kelly will be retired, my wife, and hate to break it to my bus driving family, but you don't have me for a whole lot longer. I'll be off the table too, and out on the road in the Airstream somewhere, and just enjoying life, trying to give back and network with more lifestyles folks. It's pretty interesting. Since I've attended a couple expos, people have reached out to me, and so we've got this network of friends, I call them now, that we talk about what's going on, what's the economy doing, what are different areas of the country doing. So I see that continuing for quite some time.
Well, Jeff, I want to thank you for being on the show and sharing your story with us all. The rest of you out there, remember this, it's not the money, it's the lifestyle. Have a wonderful day.
The information and opinions you hear on the Del Walmsley Radio Show are those of the host, Del Walmsley, his guests, and his callers. The Del Walmsley Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented on the Del Walmsley Show constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.